Hi, welcome to Really Understanding Incoterms 2020, a series of comprehensive masterclasses. I'm Bob Ronai, and this is the introduction session. But first, a disclaimer. I am not a lawyer. The contents of this course are not legal advice. I was a member of the International Chamber of Commerce's Incoterms 2020 drafting group, which created these rules. Some of this video's contents are direct quotes from the Incoterms 2020 publication number 723E of the International Chamber of Commerce. My explanations, my comments and my opinions are based on my knowledge and experience of over 5 decades. My intent in creating this comprehensive course on Incoterms 2020 is to ensure that my knowledge and my experience is passed on to you for a better future for you in trade. Welcome then to this series of 10 to 15 minute videos. I'm keeping them brief so that you can watch them at your convenience, while you're commuting, in a lunch break, or at home, or wherever you like. I know of no other fully comprehensive, practical masterclass series about Incoterms 2020 available to you anywhere, online or in a classroom. I'm happy for the information in these masterclasses to be shared freely, because only with knowledge and understanding can we bring about vital changes. Only by clear and detailed explanations will you be able to fully understand what the Incoterms 2020 rules are, how they work, how they don't work, and how to make them work for you. There'll be many individual lessons in this masterclass series. They will flow in a logical order, starting right here with the basics. Every now and then, I'll do a session just answering questions on topics already covered, so please feel free to ask questions in the comments section below, but please do keep them relevant to each lesson. So let's get into it. Incoterms 2020, what are they? Firstly, the word Incoterms is a registered trademark of the International Chamber of Commerce. The word is an adjective, so there is no such thing as an Incoterm. It is descriptive, so it should refer to an Incoterms 2020 rule. But there's no need to show the registered symbol in a contract or shipping documents. Most importantly, the Incoterms rules themselves are not law. Lawyers like to think of these rules as soft law. They become part of a contract of sale by way of specific reference, such as CPT Hamburg CY, Incoterms 2020. But really, of the millions upon millions of transactions each year worldwide, only a handful, if that, end up involving lawyers and courts in argument about the correct application of these rules. In this information age, I firmly believe that the Incoterms rules should now be used as a guide to all parties on the logistics aspects of the contract of sale. Incoterms 2020, must you use them? No, you don't have to. In fact, the great majority of transactions don't. That's likely because the traders have never heard of them or used them incorrectly. With this masterclass series, I hope to go some way towards remedying this. And by the way, you can still keep using previous versions too. There are also other rules in certain commodities such as GAFTA, the Grain and Feed Trade Association, rules which exclude Incoterms rules. So where did the Incoterms rules come from? The ICC, known as the Merchants of Peace back then, was formed in 1919 to create an organisation that represented businesses everywhere. The memory of World War I, which concluded only the previous year, convinced them that countries which trade together are much less likely to go to war against each other. They examined then current practices and found many countries had different rules on trade terms, or no rules at all. They therefore identified the need for universal agreement on what certain trade terms mean. In the introduction to the very first Incoterms publication in 1936, there was a very profound sentence. It is better for two parties to a contract to mean the same thing by the term they use than to quarrel afterwards as to which of the two meanings is the best. It is better for two parties to a contract to mean the same thing by the term they use than to quarrel afterwards as to which of the two meanings is the best. The first version of Incoterms was published in 1936. In 1953, after the Second World War, the rise of rail transport, especially across Europe, necessitated a revision. In 1967, there was a revision to add clarity and two new rules. The increasing use of air cargo necessitated another revision in 1974, and the increasing use of containerisation necessitated a further revision in 1980. In 1990, the book was totally revised, and 2000 was amended to deal with customs issues for two rules. 2010 saw a consolidation of some rules and increased obligations. And now the 2020 rules, a complete rewrite in plain language, but leaving concepts largely untouched. It's this latest 2020 version that we will examine, explain how the rules work, how they don't work, and look at solutions. The Incoterms 2020 book is vital for you to have on your desk. Where can you get it? Well, you can get it online from the ICC itself. Either have them email you a hard copy or send you the download of an e-book. You can also get it from ICC national committees. It's been translated into more than 36 local languages. You can even get it from Amazon, along, if you like, with my commentary on the Incoterms 2020 rules. But I do urge you to be very careful about what you can download from the internet. There is so much misinformation, incorrect information, incomplete information on YouTube videos, on freight forwarders' charts and articles. Be very, very careful. Don't get misled. So, what the Incoterms 2020 rules do. There are 11 rules explaining the ICC's definition of these three-letter abbreviations. Some are traditional, like FOB and CIF, and some abbreviations have been invented by the ICC. They explain the mutual obligations of the seller and the buyer to each other. They explain when risk transfers from the seller to the buyer and when the seller has delivered to the buyer. They explain the costs involved. These are what we'll work through in the coming lessons. But first we need to understand what the Incoterms 2020 rules do not deal with. They don't deal with whether there's even a contract in existence between the seller and the buyer. They don't deal with the details of the goods themselves, like the price, the sizes, quantities, part numbers, etc. They don't deal with the payment, the method, whether it's letter of credit or open account. They don't deal with time or term, or the place for payment, or the currency. They don't deal with the ancillary contracts of carriage or insurance, but they do instruct who has to enter into those contracts. They don't deal with export and import prohibition and tariffs and other restrictions. They don't deal with the effects of sanctions. And they don't deal with force majeure or hardship, but I do recommend that you download the International Chamber of Commerce's publication detailing the meaning of these. They don't deal with consequences and remedies for delay and breach of contract. They don't deal with dispute resolution, including the applicable law and the method of resolution. They don't deal with intellectual property rights. All of the above should be detailed and included in the contract of sale. They also don't deal with the verified gross mass, VGM. Now, this is often a contentious point. Why do the Incoterms 2020 rules not address this? Well, the any modes rules don't deal with any specific mode. And VGM only applies for an FCL, a full container load. There are many considerations about who has to declare the VGM. It's the party declaring the FCL to the shipping line who declares the VGM. In LCLs and where house bills of lading are issued, it will not be the seller to do this. The VGM rules also don't apply to the sea or inland waterway transport rules. And countries can have their own procedures on how they deal with VGM in compliance with the International Maritime Organisation's Safety of Life at Sea, the SOLAS regulations. And overall, remember, the Incoterms rules are about the mutual obligations between the seller and buyer, and VGM falls outside of that. Next lesson. We will look at the format of the book itself, and we'll explain which of the articles are identical or similar across all the rules, and what they mean. If you like this very first introductory lesson, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you'd like to be alerted to each new lesson, please hit the subscribe button and the bell. And please leave any comments and questions relevant to this lesson below. Till next lesson, enjoy.